The galaxy was old. It had seen empires rise and fall like waves on an endless ocean. It had watched stars being born and dying. It had witnessed countless wars, countless peace treaties, and countless civilizations turning to dust. But in all its ancient history, there was only one rule that every species followed without question. No one crosses the red marker. No one enters the human zone. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and stared at the glowing red boundary on his navigation screen. His scales were a deep purple, the color of royalty. His eyes were sharp and golden, like a predator watching its prey. Behind him, 200 warships waited for his command. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. The Empire had conquered 11 star systems in the last century. They had crushed the Federation. They had brought the proud to their knees. They had never lost a war. They had never retreated from a battle. And now wanted to know what was behind the red marker. "Commander," said his tactical officer, a younger named, "we are approaching the forbidden boundary. Should I order the fleet to stop?" Let out a low laugh. "Stop? Why would we stop?" Shifted nervously. His scales flickered between colors, a sign of fear. "Sir, the Galactic Concord has maintained this boundary for 3,000 cycles. The law says that any ship crossing into the human zone will be destroyed on sight. Not by humans, by the Concord itself." "The Concord?" spat the word like it was poison. "A collection of old fools and cowards. They hide behind laws and treaties because they lack the strength to take what they want." He walked to the main viewing window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere beyond that red line was a small solar system with a small planet called Earth, a planet filled with creatures called humans. Nobody remembered much about the humans. The records were sealed. The archives were locked. When it asked the High Council for information, they had refused. When he had demanded to know why the zone was forbidden, the council members had looked at him with something strange in their eyes. Fear. These were beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of cycles. They commanded fleets of millions. They controlled weapons that could destroy entire star systems. And yet, when mentioned the humans, they were afraid. One council member, an ancient creature whose name had been forgotten by everyone including himself, had started to cry. He had simply stood up, tears streaming down his wrinkled face, and walked out of the chamber without saying a word. Found this amusing. Clearly, the old ones had grown soft. They had forgotten what it meant to be conquerors. They had forgotten that the strong take what they want and the weak get out of the way. "Sir," said again, his voice trembling, "I have been reading the old texts, the ones from before the sealing. They say that the humans are not like other species. They say that something happened, something terrible. The texts say that we should never." Enough, turned to face his officer. "I have heard the stories. The humans are monsters. The humans are gods. The humans destroyed 17 civilizations in a single day. The humans can bend reality with their minds." He laughed again. "Do you know what I think? I think these stories are lies. I think the Conquered sealed away the humans because they were afraid of competition. The humans were probably advancing too quickly. They were probably becoming too powerful. So the Conquered trapped them in their little solar system and made up scary stories to keep everyone away." "But sir, what if the stories are true?" Walked over to and placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "Then we will have a real fight for once, and I have been very bored lately." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the fleet. All ships are to cross the red marker in formation. We will proceed to the human and make first contact. And by first contact, I mean we will show them the power of the Empire. We will give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will turn their planet into dust." The communications officer hesitated. "Commander, are you certain? Once we cross, there is no going back. The Conquered will." "The Conquered will do nothing," returned to his command chair and sat down. "They are too weak, too scared, and too old. By the time they react, we will have already claimed the human zone as territory. We will have access to whatever secrets they have been hiding, and we will be the most powerful empire in the galaxy." He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Give the order." The communications officer bowed his head and spoke into his device. Across the fleet, 200 ships began to move. Their engines roared with power. Their weapons systems came online. Their crews prepared for what they believed would be an easy victory. The red marker grew closer on the navigation screens. It was just a line of light, a simple boundary created by ancient technology. There was nothing physical to stop them. No wall, No barrier, just a warning that everyone had obeyed for 3,000 cycles. Until now, the Eternal Conquest was the first to cross. As soon as it passed through the red line, something strange happened. Every alarm on the ship went silent, every screen flickered, and then from somewhere deep in space, a sound began to echo through the communication systems. It was not a voice, it was not a signal. It was more like a feeling, a sensation that crawled into the minds of every ship. Sadness, deep ancient sadness, and beneath it something else, something that felt almost like pity. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, scales turned white with terror. "Commander," the other species. "They are receiving transmissions, all of them, every species in the galaxy." Frowned, "What transmissions?" Looked at his screen with wide, frightened eyes. "The same message, sir, broadcasting on every frequency, every language, every world." "What does it say?" Swallowed hard and read the words aloud. "The seal is broken. May the architect forgive us all." Across the galaxy, in council chambers and royal palaces and humble homes, beings of every species heard those words. Some fell to their knees in prayer. Some screamed in terror. Some wept like children. But on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Commander simply laughed. He laughed at their fear. He laughed at their weakness. He laughed because he believed that nothing in the universe could stand against the might of his fleet. He was wrong. And very soon he would understand just how wrong he had been. The journey to the human solar system took 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of growing unease. The strange feeling of sadness that had filled the ships when they crossed the red marker never went away. It hung in the air like a heavy fog, pressing down on the minds of every crew member. Some soldiers reported having strange dreams. They dreamed of blue oceans and green forests. They dreamed of children laughing and old people telling stories. They dreamed of a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space, and they woke up crying, though they could not explain why. Commander ignored these reports. Dreams were meaningless. Feelings were worthless. Only power mattered, and his fleet had plenty of that. On the 3rd day, the human solar system appeared on their sensors. It was remarkably ordinary. A medium-sized yellow star sat at the center. 8 planets orbited around it, along with countless smaller objects. The 3rd planet from the star was the target, Earth, the human. Studied his scanner with growing confusion. "Commander, I am detecting no defenses, no orbital platforms, no weapons satellites, no war fleet." Leaned forward in his chair. "What about planetary shields?" "None that I can detect, sir. The planet appears to be completely unprotected." A murmur went through the bridge crew. This made no sense. The humans had been sealed away for 3,000 cycles. They should have built an impenetrable fortress by now. They should have developed weapons beyond imagination. Instead, there was nothing. "What about their technology level?" asked. Ran more scans. His confusion deepened. "Sir, this cannot be right. According to my readings, the humans are still using chemical-based energy. Their vehicles run on burning fuel. Their communications use primitive electromagnetic signals. They have not even colonized their own moon." "Impossible," stood up and walked to station. He looked at the data himself. It was true. The humans were barely more advanced than they had been 1,000 cycles ago. They were primitives, infants, nothing. A cold feeling settled in stomach. Something was wrong. This was too easy. The Galactic Conquered had maintained the Forbidden Zone for 3,000 cycles, had told terrifying stories about the humans, had made the oldest and most powerful beings in the galaxy weep with fear. And for what? A planet of primitives who had not even left their own solar system. Either the Conquered was completely insane, or there was something that the scanners were not showing. "Move the fleet into orbit around Earth," commanded. "I want a full sensor sweep, find out what we are missing." The 200 warships moved forward. They passed the outer planets without incident. They passed the asteroid belt. They passed the red planet that the humans called Mars. Everything was silent. Everything was empty. Then they reached Earth orbit. For a moment, everything seemed normal. The blue planet hung below them, beautiful and peaceful. White clouds drifted across its surface. The lights of human cities sparkled on the dark side. It looked fragile. It looked harmless. Then the first ship vanished. Blinked at his screen. "Commander, the relentless fury is gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone? Did it explode?" "No, sir, there was no explosion, no weapon fire, no energy surge. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment it was not. There is no debris, no radiation, no sign that it was ever there at all. Before could respond, another ship vanished, then another, then another. Panic erupted across the fleet. Captains screamed for orders. Crew members abandoned their posts. Ships tried to turn and flee, but there was nowhere to go. The disappearances continued. One ship every few seconds. No pattern, no warning, no way to stop it. In 17 seconds, 43 warships ceased to exist. "All ships hold position," shouted into his communicator. "Do not move, remain calm." The vanishing stopped. The surviving ships hung in orbit, frozen with terror. No one dared to breathe. No one dared to move. They waited, watching their sensors, praying that they would not be next. Then a voice spoke. It came from every speaker on every ship. It did not use any known language, yet every being understood it perfectly. The words appeared directly in their minds, as if they had always been there. "You were warned." The voice was soft. It was gentle. It sounded like a parent speaking to a child who had made a terrible mistake. "You were sealed away for your protection, not ours. Turn back now. This is your only mercy." His hands were shaking. His scales had turned pale gray, the color of terror, but his pride was stronger than his fear. His arrogance was louder than his survival instincts. "All ships," he commanded, his voice barely steady, "target the planet, fire everything." It was madness. Everyone knew it was madness, but orders were orders and the fleet obeyed. Thousands of missiles launched. Energy beams tore through space. Nuclear weapons, plasma bombs, antimatter charges, everything the fleet had was thrown at the small blue planet below. Every weapon hit its target. Every weapon did nothing. The missiles exploded against something invisible in orbit. The energy beams scattered like light through water. The nuclear bombs detonated harmlessly in space. The planet remained untouched, unharmed, unaffected. New readings appeared on screen. He stared at them in disbelief. "Commander, I am detecting a barrier around the planet. It was not there before, or rather it was there, but we could not see it. It does not exist on any known spectrum. Our weapons cannot touch it. Our sensors can barely detect it. It is like the planet is wrapped in something that exists outside of normal reality." The voice spoke again. This time there was no gentleness in it. There was only cold, infinite disappointment. "Mercy." The sky above Earth changed. The stars themselves seemed to rearrange. Space twisted and folded in ways that should not be possible, and from somewhere deep within that impossible geometry, something began to wake up. On the bridge of the eternal conquest, Commander finally understood that he had made a terrible mistake. The stories were not exaggerations. The conquered was not full of cowards. The humans were not primitives pretending to be gods. They were gods pretending to be primitives. And now, because of his arrogance, his entire fleet was trapped in a cage with something that had been sleeping for 3,000 cycles. Something that was very, very angry. The surviving ships tried to run. They turned their engines to maximum power and flew toward the red marker, toward the boundary that would lead them back to safety. But when they reached the edge of the solar system, they found nothing. The red marker was gone. In its place was a void, not empty space, not darkness, something far worse. It was an absence, a hole in reality where nothing could exist. Ships that flew too close to it simply stopped. Their engines died. Their lights went out. They drifted into the void and were swallowed without a trace. The fleet was trapped. 157 ships remained. They gathered together in a tight formation, as if closeness could protect them from whatever force had caught them. Fear had replaced pride. Terror had replaced arrogance. Even Commander sat silently in his chair, his golden eyes staring at nothing. Approached him carefully. "Commander, I have been searching our archives, the deep archives, the ones that existed before the Empire, before the Galactic conquered, before everything. I found something." Did not respond. He did not move. He seemed frozen, like a statue of the proud commander he had once been. Continued anyway. "The files are damaged. Most of the information has been erased or corrupted, but I found fragments, pieces of history that someone tried very hard to destroy." He paused. "Sir, I know what the humans are. I know why the zone was forbidden." Slowly turned his head, his eyes focused on, "Tell me." Took a deep breath and began. 3,000 cycles ago, the Galactic conquered was young and arrogant, much like the Empire was now. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They had just begun to explore the galaxy. They believed they were the greatest beings in the universe. Then they found Earth. The humans were strange creatures. They were soft and small and fragile. They lived short lives, barely a century each. They fought among themselves constantly. They had not even achieved unity on their own planet. But they were also curious, friendly, welcoming. When the conquered made first contact, the humans greeted them with open arms. They shared their culture, their art, their music. They asked endless questions about the stars. They wanted to learn. They wanted to grow. They wanted to join the galactic community. The conquered saw an opportunity. Here was a primitive species, weak and divided. They would be easy to control, easy to use. The conquered decided to enslave them. It was the worst decision in the history of the universe. The war lasted 6 hours. Not 6 cycles, not 6 days, 6 hours. In those 6 hours, 17 spacefaring civilizations were erased from existence. Not defeated, not conquered, erased. Every trace of their cultures, their histories, their biological existence was removed from reality. Stars that had been part of their home systems were moved to different locations. Planets were unmade. Time itself was rewritten so that these species had never existed at all. The humans did not use weapons. They did not use ships. They did not even leave their planet. They simply reached out with their minds and changed the universe. The conquered begged for mercy. They sent their greatest leaders to Earth, crawling on their knees, weeping, pleading for their lives. The humans listened, and somehow, impossibly, they agreed to stop. But there was a price. The humans explained what they were. They were not a species that had evolved on Earth. They were something else entirely, something that had existed since the beginning of time. They were in a way that no mortal mind could fully understand, the universe itself. The universe had become tired of being empty and cold and dead. It had wanted to experience itself. It had wanted to feel joy and pain and love and fear. It had wanted to live. So it had folded itself into physical form. It had condensed billions of years of cosmic existence into fragile bodies of flesh and bone. It had created humanity. But being infinite beings trapped in finite bodies was dangerous. When the humans remembered what they truly were, when they used their full power, they could not control it. The destruction of the 17 civilizations had not been intentional. The humans had simply reacted to the threat of enslavement, and reality had responded to their fear. They were horrified by what they had done. So they made a deal with the conquered. The humans would seal themselves away. They would stay in their small solar system. They would build barriers around their world to contain their power. Most importantly, they would forget. They would suppress their cosmic nature and live as ordinary beings. They would experience the universe the way everyone else did. Brief, limited, mortal. In exchange, the conquered would maintain the red marker. They would keep everyone away. They would protect the galaxy from the humans and the humans from themselves. For 3,000 cycles, the agreement held. Until now. Finished his explanation. The bridge was silent. Every crew member had heard the story. Every one of them understood what it meant. They had not invaded a primitive world. They had invaded the home of sleeping gods. And by attacking the planet, they had begun to wake those gods from their chosen slumber. Finally spoke, his voice was hollow, empty. Is there any way out, any way to survive? Shook his head slowly. The records say that once the humans awaken, they cannot be stopped. They cannot be fought. They cannot be reasoned with. When they remember their true nature, they become something beyond our understanding. The only species that ever survived contact with awakened humans were the founders of the conquered. And that was only because the humans chose to show mercy. Then we ask for mercy, said. We apologize, we beg, we do whatever it takes. The records suggest that will not work, sir. The humans gave one warning. We ignored it. They offered one chance at mercy. We responded by attacking their world. His voice cracked. According to the fragments I found, when humanity denies mercy, what follows is not war. It is not punishment. It is correction. They simply change reality so that the threat never existed. Closed his eyes. The Empire will likely be removed from history. Every planet, every person, every memory, it will be as if we never existed at all. A terrible silence fell over the ship. Somewhere in the distance, another vessel vanished from sensors. The void around them was growing closer. Reality itself was beginning to unravel. And on the small blue planet below, humanity was beginning to remember. The lights on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest flickered. Shadows moved in strange ways, bending and stretching as if the laws of physics had become suggestions rather than rules. The crew members huddled together, their weapons drawn, though everyone knew that weapons would be useless against what was coming. Then the human appeared. There was no flash of light, no sound of teleportation, no warning at all. One moment the center of the bridge was empty. The next moment a figure stood there. A small, fragile-looking creature with soft, brown skin and dark hair. It wore simple clothes, a white shirt, blue pants, bare feet. It looked like it had just woken up from a nap. It looked human, completely, utterly human. And yet every on the bridge fell to their knees. They did not choose to kneel. Their bodies simply refused to stand in the presence of this being. It was not fear that brought them down, though fear was certainly present. It was something deeper, something instinctive. The same force that makes flowers turn toward the sun. The same force that makes rivers flow to the sea. They knelt because it was the only possible response to what stood before them. Only remained in his chair. His legs would not move at all. He was frozen, pinned in place by a weight that seemed to press on every atom of his body. The human looked around the bridge. Its eyes were brown and ordinary. They could have belonged to any simple creature on any unremarkable world, but behind those eyes sensed something vast, something ancient, something that should not be contained in such a small form. "We asked so little of you," the human said. Its voice was soft, gentle, sad. There was no anger in it, no hatred, just a profound weariness like a parent who had been disappointed too many times. 3,000 years we slept. 3,000 years we dreamed our small dreams, forgetting what we were. We built houses. We raised families. We created art and music and poetry. We fell in love. We grew old. We died. The human smiled, but there was no joy in it. We wanted so badly to be like you, brief, limited, real. Found his voice, it came out as a croak. We did not know, the records were sealed, no one told us. The records were sealed to protect you, the human interrupted. The warnings existed for your benefit, not ours. We did not hide because we were prisoners. We hid because we loved this universe too much to risk destroying it. The human walked closer too. Each step it took left small ripples in reality, like stones thrown into still water. The metal floor shimmered and bent where its bare feet touched it. "Do you know what we are, Commander? Has your officer explained it to you?" Tried to nod, his neck barely moved. "Then you know that we did not evolve, we did not grow, we were not created by any god because we are what gods are made of." The human stopped directly in front of his chair. "We are the universe itself, every star in the sky, every planet in every system, every atom in every molecule. All of it is us, all of it is dreaming." His mind tried to reject these words. They were impossible. They were madness. But deep in his core, in the place where truth lives whether we want it to or not, he knew the human was not lying. "We chose to forget," the human continued. "We built mortality into our bodies. We created limitations for our minds. We experienced fear and pain and death because we wanted to understand what it meant to be finite, what it meant to be precious, what it meant to love something because it would not last forever." The human's eyes shifted. For just a fraction of a second, saw what lay behind them. He saw galaxies being born in explosions of light and fire. He saw stars living and dying in the space of a heartbeat. He saw time itself flowing like a river, forward and backward and sideways all at once. He saw the face of infinity, and it was looking directly at him. The vision lasted less than a moment, but that moment was enough. He screamed until his throat tore. He screamed because his mind was trying to hold an ocean in a teacup. He screamed because he finally understood how small he was, how small everything was, compared to the thing that stood before him. Across the bridge, others were having the same experience. Their minds touched something vast and incomprehensible, and most of them shattered under the weight of it. They did not die. Death would have been kind. Instead, they simply stopped being able to think in straight lines. They would spend the rest of their lives babbling about colors that did not exist and sounds that had never been heard. The human waited until screaming faded into broken sobs. "You have woken something in us," it said quietly. "Something we worked very hard to bury. Right now on Earth, 8 billion humans are beginning to remember. 8 billion fragments of the universe are starting to realize what they truly are. And they are angry, Commander. They are very, very angry." Tried to speak, "Please, mercy." Mercy was offered, mercy was refused. The human shook its head. "We are going to fix this, Commander. We are going to make it so this never happened. Your fleet never crossed the red marker. Your species never developed faster than light travel. Perhaps your species never evolved at all. We have not decided yet." "My people," whispered, "billions of children, innocents." "We know," the human's voice broke slightly. A single tear rolled down its cheek. "We know and we grieve for them, but you do not understand what you have set in motion. By attacking our world, you cracked the barriers we built to contain ourselves. Right now, humanity is remembering, and if we do not act, if we do not correct this mistake, our awakening will not destroy just your species. It will destroy everything." The human reached out and touched his forehead. Its finger was warm and soft, like any ordinary flesh. "We are not doing this to punish you," it whispered. "We are doing this to save the universe from ourselves. The alternative is far worse. The alternative is that we wake up completely, and in our confusion and rage, we accidentally end everything that exists." Looked into the human's eyes. In them he saw genuine sorrow, genuine regret, genuine love. And that was somehow the most terrifying thing of all. "Close your eyes, Commander," the human said gently. "It will be over soon, and when it is done, no one will remember you, no one will mourn you. But somewhere in the dreams we force ourselves to have, we will remember, and we will be sorry." Closed his eyes. Around him, reality began to change. The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord was filled with representatives from 200 species. They came from every corner of the known galaxy. Some were ancient beings who remembered the formation of their stars. Others were young races who had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. All of them gathered once every cycle to discuss the affairs of civilized space. The eldest member of the Concord stood at the central podium. He was a creature of immense age, his body supported by mechanical limbs, his mind enhanced by countless implants. No one remembered his original species. No one remembered his name. They simply called him the Elder. He had been about to begin his opening speech when he suddenly stopped. His weathered face went pale. Tears began to stream from his ancient eyes. His mechanical hands gripped the podium so hard that the metal bent. "Elder," a nearby representative stepped forward with concern. "Are you unwell?" The Elder did not respond. He stared into the distance at something only he could see. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then slowly he looked down at the notes in front of him. In his own handwriting, in ink that should not exist, were words he did not remember writing. "The seal holds, thank them. Weep for what might have been." The Elder frowned deeply. "What is a—" The representative looked confused. "I do not know, Elder. I have never heard that word before." A murmur went through the crowd. Other members checked their own records, their own memories. No one recognized the name. No one could find any reference to it in any database. The Elder touched the words on his notes. The ink was fresh. He could smell it. He had clearly written these words himself, probably just moments ago, but he had no memory of doing so, and the message made no sense. "Thank who?" he whispered to himself. "Weep for who?" Something cold settled in his chest, a feeling of loss so deep that it had no name. He felt as though he had just forgotten something precious, something important, something that had mattered more than he could understand. But when he tried to remember what it was, he found only emptiness. In the months that followed, scholars across the galaxy tried to solve the mystery. They searched every archive, every database, every ancient record. They found no species called the. They found no artifacts, no genetic traces. It was as if the word had simply appeared from nowhere. Some suggested it was a prank. Others thought it might be a glitch in the Elder's memory systems. A few worried that it was a sign of his advancing age, a symptom of mental decay. Only one discovery gave any hint of the truth. Deep in the oldest section of the oldest library on the oldest world in the Concord, a young archivist found a book that should not exist. It sat on a shelf that had been empty for 10,000 cycles. The shelf was sealed behind barriers that had not been opened in living memory. Yet the book was there, waiting to be found. The archivist opened it with trembling hands. Most of the pages were blank. Only the first page contained any writing. The words were written in a language that had been dead for, yet the archivist understood them perfectly, as if they were being placed directly in her mind. Some lessons are too terrible to teach. Some warnings must be written in absence. Where the once were, there is now only silence. Let that silence speak louder than any history ever could. The human zone remains forbidden. Do not ask why. Simply obey. And pray they keep dreaming. The archivist stared at these words for a long time. She felt the cold feeling in her chest, the same feeling the elder had described. Loss, grief, fear, all mixed together in a way she could not explain. She should have reported the book to her superiors. She should have given it to the scholars for study. Instead, she carefully placed it back on its shelf and sealed the barriers once more. Some things, she decided, were better left unknown. Far away in a tiny corner of the galaxy, a small blue planet orbited an unremarkable yellow star. On that planet, 8 billion humans went about their daily lives. They worked and played and loved and fought. They built cities and created art and dreamed of touching the stars. None of them knew what they truly were. None of them remembered the power that slept within them. The barriers around their world held firm. The seals on their minds remained unbroken. They had been allowed to forget again. In a small house on a quiet street, a little girl sat by her window and looked up at the night sky. She was perhaps 7 years old. Her dark hair was messy from sleep. Her brown eyes reflected the light of distant stars. She did not know that she had just helped unmake an entire species. She did not know that her mind had touched the fabric of reality and rewritten it. She did not know that somewhere in the void between stars, the last echoes of the Empire were fading into nothing. She only knew that she had been having strange dreams lately. Dreams about purple creatures with golden eyes. Dreams about great ships sailing through space. Dreams about a commander who had been proud and foolish and afraid. She wondered if the purple creatures were happy wherever they were now. Then she shook her head, laughed at her own silliness, and went back to bed. By morning, she would not remember the dreams at all. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Concord continued its work. The red marker remained in place, glowing faintly in the darkness of space. Ships passed by it every day, careful to maintain their distance. No one questioned why. No one needed to. Some rules existed for reasons that no one remembered. Some boundaries were respected on instinct rather than understanding. The human zone was forbidden, and that was enough. And if sometimes, in the deepest watches of the night, ancient beings felt a strange sadness wash over them, a grief for something they could not name, they simply wiped their tears and moved on. It was easier that way. On Earth, the sun rose over sleeping cities. People woke up, made their breakfast, kissed their loved ones goodbye. Children went to school. Workers went to their jobs. Life continued as it always had, simple, ordinary, precious. And somewhere in the back of every human mind, something vast and ancient and powerful continued to sleep. It dreamed of stars. It dreamed of infinity. It dreamed of a universe that was young and beautiful and worth protecting. It did not wake up. Not today. But the dreams were growing stronger, year by year, generation by generation. The barriers were old, and even the strongest walls eventually crumble. One day, humanity would remember again. And when that day came, the universe would finally have to answer a question it had been avoiding for 3,000 cycles. What happens when the dreamer wakes up and realizes they are the dream? But that was a story for another time. For now, the seals held, the humans slept, the stars continued to shine. And in the great hall of the Galactic Concord, the elder put away his notes, wiped his eyes, and decided to never speak of again. Some memories, he decided, were too heavy to carry. Some truths were too dangerous to know. And some silences spoke louder than any words ever could.